Hello, thank you for having me. I'm getting a little bit of stage fright with how many people are in the room, but there we go. We'll power through and it'll all be fine. Suzanne recommended me to the group. Suzanne Quinney, who did the last session on Appreciative Inquiry with you guys, to talk about a piece of work that I did as part of my advanced Appreciative Inquiry top-up training, if you like, so that I could become an advanced trainer in Appreciative Inquiry. So this is a piece of work that was applied to an Aqua programme. So Aqua, I'm sure most of you will know, but we are an improvement agency, an NHS improvement agency based in the northwest of England, a membership organisation. A number of your organisations will be members, and I've spotted some names on the call already that I've kind of come across during that time. So. But one of the things that we've really focused on over the last 6 to 7 years is Appreciative Inquiry. So I thought I'd just give you a little bit of background about me first of all, just so you kind of know why I'm here and who this random woman talking to you is. So I've been in the NHS for my whole career. I started when I was 18. I'll let you work out how old I am and how long I've been in the NHS for from that. But I started work straight out of kind of school, really, as I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I went and thought I'll just be a records clerk for a couple of months while I decide what I want to do. And a long number of years later, I'm still here. So I've gone through kind of being an IT program person, like on the help desk, logging IT calls, technician, through to project management, and I've spent the last 8.5 years now in quality improvement, initially for Halo, a legacy name from the past that some people might recognise, and then moving over to Aqua around 6.5 years ago. I started working in Appreciative Inquiry pretty much my first week in Aqua. I was introduced to it by my line manager at the time, and I won't lie, and I think if Suzanne's on the call, she will back me up. When I first was introduced to Appreciative Inquiry, I was definitely not what you would call a glass half full person. I didn't have a glass. I had a puddle on the floor. I was kind of really negatively focused, really kind of a doomsayer, shall we say. But as I started to work with the kind of methodology, the mindset of Appreciative Inquiry, I was in that space, new job, new boss, really wanted to impress people. So I thought I'll give it a go. I'll give it my all, even if I'm not 100% convinced by it to start off with. But as I started to work with it and apply some of the activities and the methods, I genuinely had a real light bulb moment. It was that kind of golden thread I've been looking for throughout all my time working in quality improvement, the thing that I could use to bring everything together, and really enable me to talk about improvement and leadership and human factors and person-centered care and essentially all of those separate elements of my work, and really start to bring them together under that one language that really resonated for me. Gave me that real, genuine, honest way of talking to people, and helped my participants on the programs that I run to really kind of see that unified thread through things. So since that first kind of exploration of Appreciative Inquiry, I was pulling the figures for this the other day and genuinely surprised myself. So I've trained over 350 NHS staff over the last 6 years, over 24 two-day kind of curated workshops, and around 40 to 50 others as part of the programme I'm just about to talk through with you. So it's fair to say that it's definitely become my guiding light in kind of everything that I do, not just in work as well, but at home as well. My husband gets Appreciative Inquiry quite a lot of the time. So as I say, it's kind of become the way I kind of hold myself to account on a daily basis. I've been really lucky lucky to work very closely with Appreciating People over the last 6 years. That's Suzanne Quinney and Tim Slack, who really kind of helped me to explore appreciative inquiry and to understand what it meant to me and to my work. And just a little early plug, we're currently working on an appreciative inquiry in health and care book with Appreciating People and West Midlands AHSN, which is due out next November. So you've all got this Christmas in your letters to Father Christmas to tell him that you want this book for next Christmas. And a little bit more on that kind of later. So the case study that I really wanted to present today is around Aqua's flagship Senior Leaders QI programme. It's called Advanced Improvement Practitioner. And we at the start of COVID, as with everybody else, we had to go fully virtual. So we needed to redevelop the programme for that virtual learning environment. We do review all of our programmes regularly to keep them fresh, but this was a different opportunity, a real kind of chance to experiment with new learning formats, to embed an appreciative inquiry and strengths-based approach throughout the whole programme. So not just have it as standalone bits that we taught, but have that ethos throughout everything that was on the programme. And I was really, really lucky, actually, the capability building manager. Some of you might have come across Sarah Walker in your careers. We had a really good working relationship, and she basically gave me full autonomy to rework the programme in the way that I saw best fitted my strengths and best fitted what the needs of NHS senior leaders was at the time. She kind of gave me free rein to be as creative as I wanted, to build in as much strength-based and appreciative inquiry elements as I needed. And she challenged me continuously to not just see things from what was my strengths and what did I want to teach, but what were the learners on the programme going to get out of it? How were they going to be able to apply it in real life? How were they going to be able to change the way that they dealt with their teams and team members as a result of attending an Advanced Improvement Practitioner? And she really challenged me to make it tangible and really outcomes based for those learners. So that, mixed with the strengths-based and appreciative inquiry elements, has really delivered a kind of high impact programme for senior leaders. So a little bit about the programme as it was before we kind of started editing it and redefining it. So the Advanced Improvement Practitioner programme is it's an ambitious development programme that we've kind of designed over the years to support senior and aspiring senior staff with leading and facilitating improvement at a system level within the NHS. And the more we move towards our integrated care boards, integrated care systems, the more important that system level kind of becomes for everybody working within the NHS. The programme's really grounded in the science of quality improvement. We don't teach any quality, or don't specifically teach any quality improvement on the programme. We assume that people have previously attended QI programmes, but we're still based in that real kind of QI methodology. We use the Health Foundation's Habits of an Improver as the key kind of text through the programme. We find that really linking everything back to that Habits of an Improver helps to really ground it for people. And it's set up to kind of support learning through a blend of kind of originally face-to-face and self-directed learning, exploring theory with peers, and a real emphasis on application of learning back in the workplace as well, in ways that supports kind of organisational improvement. Aqua, and we've always felt that kind of participation in the AIP programme supports learners to become really well-rounded leaders of improvement, with a really deep understanding of themselves. We spend a lot of time kind of doing reflection on ourselves as people, which helps us to then get that ability to inspire and lead others, and really gives an in-depth understanding of the levers of improvement and system change. And the kind of overarching aim of the programme is to develop those skills, the knowledge, the behaviours to help people to kind of understand improvement leadership at all levels, so micro, meso and macro, to lead those sustainable improvements within health and care services, to really be able to develop improvement approaches for large scale change. And we spend a whole day kind of focusing on large scale change, to analyse and deploy appropriate improvement concepts, to engage and support people through change. And there's a real emphasis on supporting staff through change. And to understand how to set improvement priorities from a position of knowledge and insight. As well as kind of taking that whole system view of improvement. And we've always been very clear, Aqua has always been very clear, that the only people allowed to teach or facilitate any of the sessions on AIP have to have been through the programme themselves. So I did the programme 6 years ago, excuse me, with one of the ladies on the call actually was on my cohort of AIP when I went through it, Christina, who I can see on the call. And then Sarah kind of trained me up to take over the programme from her, following on from me completing it 6 years ago. So just a little bit of kind of numbers of AIP. So it's been running at Aqua in one form or another for kind of over 10 years. It was one of the first programmes that Aqua started delivering when they were created, just coming up for 11 years ago now. There's normally 2 cohorts a year. There certainly has been since 2016, and there's normally between 20 to 30 members of staff on per cohort. Over the lifetime of AIP, the kind of length of it, the taught length has varied between 10 to 7 days, but it's always been over like a 6-month period. So since 2016, there's over 109 taught days have been delivered, and over 350 members of staff have gone through that programme since 2016. And when I was crunching the numbers for these slides, I realised that I've already trained 122 people using this new format. So we've got a real kind of ability to go back and a test group that we can say, yes, actually, this has really worked very well. The face-to-face format was redeveloped 3.5 years ago when I first took over the programme, just to make it kind of my content and make it something that I felt comfortable teaching on. And this redevelopment that I'm going to talk you through now took place, as I said earlier, as a result of the start of the COVID pandemic. And we've already mentioned that this case study is in the Appreciative Inquiry Practitioner Journal. There is a link on screen there, but we will share a PDF just of that article with you all, because the whole thing's behind a paywall, as was already mentioned. So the challenge that we faced at the start of COVID was much like anybody else who was delivering kind of training sessions, was moving that face-to-face programme that we'd spent a long time developing and really creating into something that was based on the relationships people built in the room and really being able to trust each other in that environment. How to move that programme with all of its exercises, all of its kind of thinking that we'd done, into a really engaging, thought-provoking, inspiring virtual programme. What we didn't want was, and I teach on a lot of different programmes at Aqua, and I'm guilty of it myself in a virtual environment. We didn't want one of those programmes where people were going to be checking their email and kind of half listening and half doing other things at the same time. We really wanted it to be something that people could immerse themselves in fully, so that it felt as much like being face-to-face as possible. And actually some elements of it felt even better than being face-to-face. So we really wanted to kind of practice what we preached. We were going to embed these strengths-based and appreciative inquiry elements to the programme. So the first thing I really needed to do was to do that in the creation of the programme, so that it wasn't just an afterthought. It was the way we'd done everything from start to finish. So I spent some time really thinking through the kind of questions you can see on screen there. I was really conscious that much as I'd been given that blank canvas, that free rein to do with the programme as I pleased, it was really important to maintain the core elements and content of the programme. It's always been a really successful programme. It's always been really well regarded. It's one of the programmes Aqua are really known for. So I didn't want to just throw the baby out with the bathwater. I wanted to maintain those core elements and the content that had gone down really well over the years. I really needed to develop exercises that would have the same impact remotely as they did in a face-to-face environment. And there were some of the exercises that were in the programme that I thought I can just rework them, they'll work as well in a virtual environment. But there were some exercises that we did that I didn't yet have the confidence teaching remotely to run them in a remote environment. So I needed to create new exercises that I knew would work. I really wanted to understand the needs and learning styles of the participants on the programme. On longer programmes, I think it's really important to know who you've got in the room, what makes them tick, and how you can kind of really tap into their kind of drivers. And I really wanted to build a personalised kind of build your own element into the programme. So I had just completed my MBA at Manchester Business School, and one of the elements that we had was electives that we could kind of select that either pushed us to learn something new or shored up our knowledge of something that we already did. And I really wanted to build that into the programme so that people could either kind of get more knowledge about a topic that they were already working on and just kind of have the theory to underpin that, or push themselves to learn something completely new or to try something that was out of their comfort zones. So I really wanted to build in that kind of personalised element alongside the core learning on the programme. And as I said, and will hopefully come out during this presentation, I really wanted to build in that strengths-based leadership and the appreciative inquiry element throughout the programme. It's kind of really important to me to have that as the guiding light throughout the programme. So I started to think about what the programme structure was going to look like. And as I said, I knew I really wanted to understand those different learning styles that I had in the room on each cohort, just to allow me to ensure that I was keeping everybody engaged throughout the day, throughout the various days. Whether they were people who wanted to jump straight in and test things out, or they were people who needed a little bit more time to really kind of reflect on things, to read the theory. So I decided that I was going to ask everyone who came on the programme to undertake the Honey and Munford learning style survey before they started. So for those who haven't come across it before, it's a number of questions that you answer, and your kind of preferred answers tells you what kind of learner you are. So you have activists who just want to get in and do things right now. The people who open the iPhone box and just start playing around with it without reading the instruction. People who scare the living daylights out of me because they never read anything, they just pop everything together. The theorists are the people who want to kind of read everything about it. They want to understand why something works rather than just being told that it will work. The pragmatists who want to kind of think about, you know, the theory is great and having a go at it's great, but how am I going to use it in the real world? And then the reflectors who really need time to kind of go away and think about things and kind of think about what it means to them and how it makes them feel. So by understanding before that each cohort started who I had in the room, what it enabled me to do was to kind of write the content for the programme, but then tweak the focus of each session depending on who I had in the room. So we had a couple of different options for exercises for if we had loads of reflectors who generally are a little bit quieter in sessions, how would we run the exercise in that case? So it gave me that kind of ability to pick and mix the exercises based on who was in the room. So as I say, really kind of helped me to develop that. I built all of the learning sessions really around developing strengths and engaging with the topics in a really kind of appreciatively framed way. So we used some liberating structures within them. For example, the 3 W's, the what, so what, and now what. So what have I heard? What does it mean for me? And what am I going to do as a result of it? We really kind of made sure to build the sessions around Cobb's learning cycle. So Cobb's experiential learning cycle is the way that we kind of structured every single mini element of each session. So we started off by exploring what people in the room potentially already knew, so that we were starting to expose who had strengths in this area already, who could help others on the cohort to kind of learn more and explore more, and who could we partner people up with who maybe needed a little bit more support to get to know that theory. So we did that kind of who knows what already. Then we taught a little bit of theory. So we kind of talked through the background, some theory. We'd move then into an exercise or a discussion to enable experimentation for people. And then we would kind of encourage participants to put the learning into practice in their work environments. That's the kind of the takeaway element, that concrete experience. So by doing that, we were able to build in those different learning styles as well, and uncover, as I say, the strengths that already existed in the room. I was also really, really keen to build in some creative exercises. So before I did my cohort of AIP, I did not think I was a creative person at all. And we had a little bit of time to spend doing some creative exercises, some sketchnoting and so on. And I uncovered a side of me that I didn't know existed. And I think probably the vast majority of people on that cohort did as well. And I was really keen to kind of bring that in really strongly. So in the new AIP, we spend a whole day focusing on creativity and the different ways that we can be creative, whether we are roll me in glitter and call me Picasso people, or people who would run away at the thought of sticky back plastic and glue. We talked about how we can use an analyst's mind to be really creative as well. So I was really keen to build in those creativity exercises for left and right brain and pepper them through the programme as well, so that people were experimenting with being more creative in a work environment right the way through. And then I was very, very keen to build in different ways of learning, so different ways of kind of turning on different learning kind of sections in the brain. So we had some kind of individual reading exercises, some teach back development sessions for people, just to switch on those different learning centres, and also give people the opportunity to shine on the elements that they were really strong on already. If I had people in the room that had a master's in one of the things I was talking about, why would I not give them the opportunity to share some of their knowledge that was probably far superior to mine? So really keen to kind of let people share their experiences. And then we had these tailored workshops on specific topics that I kind of mentioned. So these were electives. People were asked to complete a minimum of 2. We put on 7 electives in the first 2 cohorts, and then 6 in the following cohorts, based on the feedback and the amount of sign up we had for each elective. But these are really kind of curated and tailored to the people in the room. We do a little bit of getting to know the participants that are going to be attending each elective first, so that we can really curate the content directly to them. So we had sessions initially on human factors. We had a specific appreciative inquiry one, liberated structures elective, person-centered care, and so person-centered care was person-centered care and patient activation. We had developing people, a measurement elective, and also an elective specifically on PDSA and evaluation. And the reason we've gone down to 6 electives is because as we were running the sessions, we realised that actually the PDSA and evaluation one really needed to be core content. It was too important for people to not have that covered in the core stuff. So we built that back into the core sessions. But what I really wanted was to make sure that those tailored workshops were as good or even better than the core content, that they were the thing that people went away and said, that's really kind of made a difference. So I needed to think about how we were going to deliver them, not least because the core content of the program is 7 days. And if I had to do another 14 days of electives, because they were seven kind of half-day sessions for each one, then I knew that I just would not have the time. So I really needed to think about how to deliver those electives. So I could have set the whole program up to be me as a single Pringle delivering everything, with just a little bit of input and support from others where it was appropriate, you know, to guide me to articles or to specific things I could share. But I really knew that if I wanted to practice what I was preaching around strengths-based working, then I needed to bring in a wider team of people whose strengths were in those specific areas that we would be covering. So I am what's known at Aqua as a jack of all trades. I'm probably a master of AI these days, but I'm certainly a jack of all trades. Whereas we've got some people in the team who are real kind of masters of specific elements. So in both the core delivery and the electives, I made a decision to kind of bring in as many external and internal facilitators as possible. A, so that people got a different voice and a different perspective on things, but B, so that they got the real cutting edge expertise that you'd expect from a high level kind of program. And those people delivered the sessions that were most suited to them. So I was the kind of constant presence throughout the whole program, there to link sessions up for people and create those kind of golden threads throughout the program. But the kind of external facilitators delivered the sessions that were most suited to them. So these are all of the facilitators that we had on the program. You can see there's a wide range of people. You might recognise some of them from Aqua or from other programs. So we had Kevin Wyke from Leap Further, who did a session on the Game Changer Index with people. And Kev's always, probably for the last 5 or 6 years, has been part of AIP. Leads the real kind of who am I and what's important to me session that we do really early on in the programme. We had Matt Cope, who is used to work for Halo and for Coawatea in New Zealand, and is now an improvement advisor on his own. He leads the Leading Large Scale Change session. We have Sarah Walker, who leads the Systems Thinking session. We have Eileen and Chris, who lead the PDSA and evaluation session. So Eileen is our evaluation lead and Chris is really experienced in applied PDSA. And then the electives facilitators that you can see down the bottom there. We've got Andrea Mcginnis, who does the Appreciative Inquiry elective now. It started off, I did it to start off with, and then realised that they were just hearing way too much of my voice. So I brought Andrea in, who's the person who introduced me to AI. We've got Tom and Simon, who are our analysts. They lead the measurement session. And that's a kind of measurement to use data to tell stories. We've got Helen and Paul, who lead the Developing People session. Brooke Howells, who does the Human Factors session. And myself, I lead the Liberating Structures session. So a really wide range of people and experiences for them to hear from. And after all of the core teaching, all of the kind of electives, we have a celebration event. So really important for everyone to kind of be able to share their journeys throughout the programme and what they've learned about themselves and the programme more generally. So we asked people to do a reflective presentation. We used to ask people to report on a piece of work that they'd done and how they'd applied the learning. But now what we ask for is a reflective presentation on their journey through AIP and how they've developed as a person. And honestly, on every single cohort, we've done 4 virtual cohorts now. I've been truly kind of humbled by the growth and development that people have gone through. It's really kind of cemented for me just how good that strengths-based appreciative mindset can be for people. So we've had tears on every single one of the celebration sessions. In fact, the first celebration session we did virtually, I spent the whole day with my camera off because I was just bawling my eyes out. with people who've been able to overcome kind of really severe imposter syndrome, people who'd kind of gone from being real cynics like I was at the start to real converts in AI and creativity. People being really surprised at their propensity to be creative and to really think of things in a different way. And genuinely, everyone at Aqua who's been involved in it's been really starstruck by the people that we've had on the programme and the confidence that they've built through it. So we've had people come through and gain promotions that they've attributed to the confidence that they've built on the programme. We've had people come through and then apply for jobs with Aqua at the end of the AIP programme. And the 4 cohorts that we've run have all been kind of really successful. And the organisation Aqua is taking a kind of a learning from excellence approach with this as well, and starting to apply some of the learning from this programme onto other programmes. And as we start to move into that more blended model of going back to a little bit more face-to-face, really applying the learning from this and how we kind of manage the two. So what's the kind of benefits that we've had from running the programme like this and from applying that strengths-based appreciative mindset? From a learner's perspective, what we've realised and what we've been told by our learners is that they really value the opportunity to connect on that deeper level with the purpose behind their work and what drives them. So we've always received really excellent feedback even before these changes. But the redevelopment, the things that people are coming out and saying to us now is that the AI and the strengths-based elements have really been an additional benefit. They've really helped people to think about things in that more kind of focused way and really take that into their teams, especially at times where, you know, the last 2 years haven't been easy for teams working in organisations. Taking that really appreciative mindset and spending a couple of minutes of every day just saying, what's gone really well today and how can we get more of that tomorrow, is something that people have said is a massive boon for them working with their teams. And just to give you two kind of little stories on learner kind of benefits. So one participant on the second to last cohort told me that the programme, I get quite emotional talking about this because it really touched me, that the programme was the one bright spark that got them through a really difficult time. It was the thing that kept them going, knowing that they had another day where they could come and learn a little bit more and be with really like-minded people. They'd been close to quitting their job and had been feeling really struggling with their mental health. And they said this was the programme that reignited the spark in them for what they were doing and why they were doing it. So really kind of rewarding for them and for us to hear that. And we also had a participant who joined the programme on the first virtual cohort actually, and rang me before starting to say, I'm thinking of pulling out. I don't think I'm of the same calibre as everyone else on the programme. I think I'm going to be the thickest person in the room, who kind of in her feedback and wrote us a kind of testimonial to say that the course had been a real revelation. It's shown her what she's capable of. She couldn't thank the programme enough. Since being on AIP, she's had 2 promotions that I know of. And she attributes that to the confidence that being on the programme gave her in herself and her own strengths. So really kind of beneficial for participants on the programme. But it's not just the participants on the programme. For Aqua, we've really been able to understand and respond to our individual passions and strengths. So whenever, if anyone comes on the programme or has been on the newly revamped programme, the energy from the facilitators is really, really palpable in the room, in the virtual room, because we're all speaking from a place of joy and dedication and about that thing that really kind of switches all our buttons on. So we are talking about the thing that gets us most excited about our work, and that rubs off on others. And we've used that knowledge to help us then to kind of move that into other programs. So as well as kind of continuing to refine AIP, we've used that knowledge of each other's strengths to shore up and refine some of our other programs. So we spent kind of 3 months reviewing our step ladder for our capability building programs, and making sure that the thread is through them all, but that the people delivering each session are the most experienced, most passionate people in each of those topic areas across all of those programs. So that's kind of really helped us to develop further at Aqua. And then just for me personally, as a kind of program lead and as the facilitator of the program, actually being the person to redevelop the program and being able to do this has really kind of deepened my personal connection to appreciative inquiry, learning from excellence, strengths-based working. It's really cemented it as the way I will continue to undertake all of my work going forwards. So I'd previously used it as a bit of a tool to call upon when people were struggling in a negative space. I'd ask, some appreciative questions and use it in that way. But it's now kind of the underpinning guiding principle that I run all of my work from. So it's really deeply connected me to my purpose. It's given me real faith in my own knowledge and experience, and reminded me just how passionate I actually am about appreciative inquiry, about improvement, about strengths-based working and the positive outcomes that it can bring to our work. And it's made me even more passionate about spreading the message through my practice. It's also really taught me that those meaningful relationships that we can build over a period of time by asking kind of deep and insightful questions is really, really important to me. Helps me to understand what drives other people, so that I can offer them the best support that I can based on my knowledge of them. So kind of benefits at multiple levels to running this piece of work. And then just to finish off, because I'm conscious I really want to leave plenty of time for questions and conversation. So for AIP and for Aqua, the future of the programme is kind of already in development. The first face-to-face cohort of this new version of AIP is being delivered this autumn. Learners are 2 sessions in now in a face-to-face kind of environment. And the new programme leads are already tweaking bits to work to their strengths. So the beauty of the way that the programme's been built means that however many people deliver on it, however many different people lead the programme, it can be tweaked to their strengths and the needs of people in the room. I kind of feel like I've planted a tree that I'm going to watch grow from afar. Because for me, this is my my last session that I'm delivering as part of my role at Aqua. I move on to a new role on Monday, working in Wrightington, Wigan and Lee. But I'll be taking kind of all my experience of working on this piece of work specifically, but appreciative inquiry and strengths-based learning more generally to my new organisation. So that's kind of the case study on what I wanted to share. I'm going to stop sharing my slides so I can see everybody's faces. If I can get my mouse to work. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share. I haven't been keeping an eye on the chat box. I apologise. I could see things popping up, but I'm relying now on.
I can take over. Thank you, Kayleigh. That was fantastic. And folks, we're going to use the raise hand function you will see on your Zooms in the reactions button. This raise hand function, and I'll invite you folks to not only bring questions, we can have a Q&A moment, but also if you have comments, if you have a discussion to bring, just step forward. And I did see Hisham's question earlier, very early in the call. Perhaps we could start with that, Hisham.
Hi there. Yeah, thanks for inviting me to ask a question, Jory. Kayleigh, I love that presentation. It was really enthusing to hear the kind of intertwining, I think, between professional and personal. I think is something I really took away from that. It's much more than just a professional journey, but actually a personal one for you and the contributors. And my question kind of touched on that a little bit. So particularly with senior leaders, and I've given the example in the text there, that there is a kind of, I don't know, cynicism maybe that comes with being in the system for a while. You kind of think, well, you've had lots of disappointments and don't want to disappoint other people that you're leading. And so the response I had when I put a dream in our improvement framework, which was a nod to AI really, was, wow, we need to be realistic. We can't be setting up expectations and failing people. I think it came from a good place, but it was pretty depressing. I wondered how you would respond, or how you have responded to that from your own senior leaders.
So I think one of the things that I always do is I always kind of say, we can, by dreaming what we see in the future and what we want our organizations to be, we can light that fire under people to kind of get them all working in that same direction. And yeah, of course, sometimes we might need to roll that dream back a little bit to what's realistic and possible right now and in the next 12 to 18 months. But if we don't dream it, we won't ever create it. And I'm kind of always, I always kind of push people to say, what if nothing was off the table, off limits, what would you be doing? And how close to that can we get within the confines that we've got? So it brings it back to that what's manageable right now, but really gets that fire going under people at the same time. Does that help?
Yeah, I guess think so. So what you're saying is you can start off with there, but realize actually what you might not end up shooting for the stars, but at least you need to know where they are to navigate by, if you extend my metaphor.
Yeah, my nan always used to say to me, aim for the moon, and if you don't reach it, you'll at least end up amongst the stars. I'm not sure whose quote it is. I'm fairly certain it didn't come from Gertie Price, but it's one of those things that's always really stuck for me.
Yeah.
If you don't kind of aim to get to the top that you possibly can, even if you don't make it, you'll end up somewhere that's far better than where you started out.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you, Kayleigh. Really appreciate it.
Come on, folks. We're looking for questions, comments. Use the raise hand button, or just unmute yourselves now that there's nobody in line. No extra questions? No. Because I saw a lot of appreciation in the chat. I'm wondering if anybody has something to raise up from this appreciation. Anything that popped up?
So one of the things I'm just spotting as I kind of scroll through the chat is there's quite a lot of conversation about liberating structures and how it's aligned with appreciative inquiry. And just to kind of pick up on that, how I got into liberating structures was through appreciative inquiry. And then I went on the Health Foundation put on a 2-day course on liberating structures where they came over from, I think they're from Canada, and spent some time talking to us about it. And I think what Suzanne's kind of popped in the chat there, and a couple of other people have said, is there's so much alignment between appreciative inquiry, learning from excellence, and liberating structures that I came very, very close to starting a PhD based on the 3 topics and how they link together. But then I realized that I'm not that good at research. It's not one of my strengths. So maybe a PhD was the wrong place for me. But that's why we built in the liberating structures elective, because the congruence of strengths-based learning and liberating structures, and how we can use those to get so much more out of people than they ever thought was possible, and to subvert some of the suffocating kind of structures that we have in place within not just the NHS but within the world of work in general, really kind of speaks to me. And whenever I'm doing an AI session, it's always got some sort of element of liberating structures in there as well, because they just coalesce beautifully together, I think.
Nope, Hisham, go for it.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted just to kind of push that a little bit further, Kayleigh. I mean, I should have introduced myself at the start. Sorry, I'm head of QI in Oxford. I'm a consultant paediatrician. But one thing I I've kind of recognized, and I think it's partly from my experience of AI, thanks to Suzanne when I was up in Manchester, actually, kind of when I was doing my training time, was how at the heart of all quality improvement is self-improvement, actually. That actually, although manifestly you're trying to improve systems and processes and improve efficiency and efficacy of, of the health services that we deliver, really, actually, at the very heart of it is an internal process that we go through, how we become better as individuals, as practitioners, as human beings. And that's the kind of thing that really kind of piqued my interest as I was hearing the kind of sub-story to your story, so to speak, is how this can be transformative for individuals. And I'm curious as to your thoughts, and maybe others in the group, really, as to how, particularly in these times where burnout is the kind of almost the default, really, as we're being pushed to do more with less, and how actually to be able to manage that needs a lot of internal work. I wondered what your learning has been through the leadership program that you've had that touches on that.
It's a really interesting question, and one of the biggest things that I asked when we were virtualizing it is actually, is it the right time to be asking people to come on a program like this when we were right at the start of COVID and everybody's lives, never mind just their work lives, were totally up and everybody was feeling really under pressure, and I genuinely wasn't sure how people would respond to the program because of that. I thought we might get an awful lot of kind of people keen but not actually committing, and I think what I've taken from it, both personally and from everything I've seen from learners on the program, is having that protected time to explore you and what makes you tick and what makes you passionate about what you do, actually was really, really important for people, and people committed to this program even more than the face-to-face program, which is not what we normally see with virtual learning. It's normally the opposite kind of story, but because the focus was on their journey and them as a leader of improvement rather than the tools of quality improvement, it really touched something in people, and what we found is that the following 3 cohorts after that first cohort, every single person who's come on it has said, I've come on this because such and such a person told me how much it gave them, and people reported that it had really helped with how burnt out they were feeling, because it had reignited that this is why I do this is why I love my job, and this is why it's so important to me, kind of gave people a little bit of energy back. I'm not saying that they didn't then go out of the room and the following day have all that energy sapped back out of them again until the next time, but it gave people something to really focus on them and who they were within the system, and stopped people from getting lost in that command and control space that we were in at the time.
Yeah. Thank
you. I was wondering, Kayleigh, are there any, from your experience of people taking sort of appreciative and strength-based approaches back into their own workplaces, I just wondered if there are any kind of easy first steps to take appreciative inquiry type approaches into our own workplaces, if you've seen any ways that we could do that if it's not, commonly being used already.
So a really good one is called, Suzanne, please correct me if I'm wrong, My Strengths Finder is a really good one, and that is that's free, that you can do online. There's also one, and Suzanne, I'm sorry I can never remember the name of it, that Suzanne shared with us a little while ago, that gives you your kind of it almost tells you what your role and your purpose is when it comes to this kind of thing. So I, for example, mine is all around kind of storytelling and bringing people along with me, and that's what kind of makes me tick. But Suzanne will have a massive list of brilliant kind of examples of strengths-based tools, others that we used on the program, not so much specifically around strengths, but we use Adobe Creative Types, which is a free online kind of survey that you can do, and that tells you what kind of creativity you bring to the workplace. So there's the dreamer, who dreams the future. There's the creator who then takes that and makes it a reality. And we link that really, really closely with the Game Changer Index that I mentioned, which is a paid for service. We buy that in from them. But that really uncovers who you are as a person. And we also use the intentional change theory model, so Boyatzis intentional change theory, which looks at ideal self, current self, places that they call it weaknesses, but not the most AI kind of language, but is essentially, what do I need to do to move my current self to closer to my ideal self? Trusted relationships. So we talk about the board of directors of me, the people who I can go to really challenge me to think differently. So Boyatzis intentional change model is a really good kind of way of understanding yourself, and then back it up with some of the other kind of examples. And as I say, Suzanne, I'm really sorry I can't remember the name of the amazing one that you shared with us, but I see you've turned your mic on.
I can do that, yes, if you can hear me all right. It's Marcus Buckingham, Standout Strengths. And if you just put in Standout Strengths, you'll get it up. There's a nice one that comes from the positive psychology world, the University of Pennsylvania. That's called VIA, V-I-A. And Michelle McQuaid, who's in Australia but does loads along these lines, she's got wonderful suggestions about strength spotting. You know, how can we all be strength spotters when we're in a meeting and notice other people's? It becomes just a nice thing to do. Notice it and then ask a very small question, asking the other person to reflect on the strength you've just spotted in them. Okay, thanks for a lovely talk, Kayleigh.
Thanks, Suzanne. I knew Suzanne would be able to back up my inability to remember the names of things.
And a bit specifically from Appreciative Inquiry that you can take particular exercises that are easy to use without, you know, a full-blown kind of Appreciative Inquiry summit or something, you know, that are there little bits of that are a way to kind of dip your toes into appreciative approaches?
So I think one of the most kind of useful things for me, and one of my favorite bits of Appreciative Inquiry is kind of paired interviews. So we kind of go with some positively framed questions and kind of ask each other those questions to understand a little bit more about whether it's us as individuals or the work that we're doing, and really kind of ask people different questions that get to the root of what is it that kind of works for me. And I think for me, the most powerful element of Appreciative Inquiry certainly in the NHS and health and social care is that reframing. So using questions to help people see things differently. You don't need to go on a 2-day, 3-day, 4-day course to do that. All you need to do is think about what's the intention of what I'm asking, what am I trying to get to, and how can I get the best out of that person when I'm asking that question. So some of the questions that we'll ask is, you know, describe to us a day in work that feels really good to you. What does it look like, and what are you doing on that day, and how are you interacting with people? And getting people to describe what it is that really gets them going is a really useful kind of way of getting under the skin of things a little bit, I think.
Catriona, you have your hand raised, please.
I do. I just wanted to say thanks, Kayleigh. I think I feel a little bit humbled on calls like this when I haven't met people before, and I don't really. I think one of the risks with Appreciative Inquiry is that we can get very hung up on the tools. And for me, I got introduced to it most formally, I guess, by my current boss. But having come from a role where there was a lot of suspicion, I guess, about other members of the team, like toxic cultures within the NHS, it was such a lovely feeling to think that somebody was just looking at me and assuming the best rather than assuming that I was always trying to get away with something. I'm only 52 and a half. And I think, yeah, being curious is probably the biggest thing that I've found. And that, I mean, certainly, again, going back to my boss, I don't think she's on this call, but I think it's about the way she approached me. And because she approached me from that place, it was inevitable that I would try harder in it to harness my strengths. But I think the other thing with healthcare is that we have so much imposter syndrome that it's really hard to focus away from the things we're not good at onto the things that we are good at. But that's what appreciative inquiry, when it's run as a golden thread of culture through a team, can really bring. So yeah, I mean, I have so many thoughts on this because I wish I could do it all the time, but I think being human means that I can be as cynical as anybody else, you know, which is what I put in the chat about, like the fact that I can remind myself routinely almost that I can expect other people to be coming from a good place. I'm going to stop talking. You asked me to talk, I'm talking. But yeah, thank you for the session. It's great to have a chance to meet you.
Thank you. Heshan, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I'll keep it short because I appreciate we're out of time, Jerome. But this is just, I guess, a request that picks up on Katrina's comment there around what I kind of consider micro habits of improvement. You know, how do you incorporate, you know, appreciative mindset, you know, curious questions, spotting the assets, all the kind of things which we know both gives joy at work, but also helps build systems and people and processes. So I'm really interested in that. And actually, maybe I should stand up with a request. If any of you have got an offer, something kind of small that they might want to put on HexyTime, which is a kind of a time banking platform around that, I'm sure there'll be lots of individuals who may want to learn and build on that with you. So that's just, I guess, a final request, but really interesting and joyful conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I've just spotted to go and plug his laptop in. So Jeff, I think you had your hand up as well. Oh, I wondered if it was you, Jeff.
Yeah, I've done course.
Oh, you're very quiet, Jeff. I can't hear you.
Your mic's not working.
No, it's Zoom. I'll take a minute to get my other headset. So can you hear me if I shout?
Just about.
Okay. Yes, I did Kayleigh's course, so I'm still here for the supper. I'll make it really brief because we're out of time. That question earlier about how to make it realistic. I think there is a danger when people take ideas to senior people. You're kind of at the dreamer stage, and you do need to make it realistic. But I think for me, if we said to the chief exec who is dismissing you as a dreamer, if you said to him, well, what about the exemplars in the area? What about the people who do it better than we do it? Why is it worth going to look at what they do? And then in management terms, there's a lot of interesting dashboards. Dashboards, you know, there's pros and cons to them, but they do provide management information in a way that people can work at, and they can evidence people who are getting it right, whatever right is, whatever the topic is. And then also it's even something that critics can work with. They can say, okay, well, what are the areas not doing it well? But I think we do have to move on from that concept of, well, you know, we can't just stay with dreams. No, but there are ways of being realistic with it as well. So I think for me that looking at the exemplars, the outliers in the good way, it is a very practical way of making any debate about any particular topic realistic.
Yeah, I think that's a great point and feeds perfectly into what this special interest group is. It's, you know, the learning from excellence of those learning from the organizations or the parts of our own organization that do things really, really well is really important and really helps us, as you say, move from that what's the dream to how do we make it a reality. I think a perfect kind of place to kind of finish there on, is that learning from excellence, bringing it. Lost my ability to put words together now.
Don't worry, I'll save you there, Kayleigh.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for participating. Thank you so much, Kayleigh. That was so much knowledge in so little time. Thank you for bringing this expertise to us. And as you've seen, and as we've been noticing, there's so much hunger for this sort of knowledge in the community. There's so much evident value in positivity, and especially positivity that comes with the framework that is applicable, that is verifiable. So thanks very much. I will now stop this recording.